So let's talk about Outfluence. What is it? What is Outfluence? Outfluence is awareness, and it's awareness of constant messaging, and then it's our response to those constant messages. So let's break it down and talk about each one. Awareness. What is it that we're aware of? We're aware of those constant messages, and those constant messages are delivered by us constantly. They're delivered by the way we look, by what we say, by the words we use, by what we watch, by what we read, because all those things impact how we then act. And that's what people are seeing. And most of the constant messaging that we engage in is done silently. Okay? So when you walked in here today and you saw me up here, you didn't know who I was, so your first thought was, well, he's bald and gray, so he's got to be over 50, and chances are he may know what he's talking about, so maybe I'll get something out of this today. See what I mean? You're instantly making evaluations about me by my silent messages. And then it's the response. How do we respond to the silent messages that we're giving? Either we like the person that we're talking to and we want to get to know them better, or we decide, well, I'll say hi and then I'll just move on. You know, you could have walked in here and saw me up here this morning and thought, maybe not, and walked to the next room to see who was speaking down there. But you didn't. You stayed here, so I was giving off good positive messages. And that's an important thing to remember, because it's those kinds of things. You're making evaluations and judgments right away when you meet somebody. And you know what? They're doing the same thing to you. So, how did Outfluence start? Where did it all begin? Let me tell you a little story about that. When I was 9 years old, the Ideal Toy Company introduced to the marketplace a little baby doll for girls. It was called the Betsy Wetsy doll. Now, of course, my last name being Betz, B-E-T-Z, there's a natural progression there for my good old buddies in the neighborhood to parlay that into all kinds of teasing about Betsy Wetsy and me with my name. And it affected my self-esteem very badly, because whereas before I would participate in class, I played a musical instrument, I was in the band, and that was something I really wanted to pursue, but I wasn't able to do it anymore because I was just so afraid that if I did it and made a mistake, the teasing would start all over again. So I basically dropped out of sight for a while in terms of my participation in school, until one day a teacher discovered that I was a pretty good speller. I enjoyed spelling, and she would call on me so that I would have to participate. And I felt comfortable there because I usually knew the answer. And she was the one who kind of kept the spark alive for me that I could be successful. I could do something. There was something in life that I could do. It was spelling. It wouldn't get me too far necessarily by itself, but it was a sign that I could be successful. So that teacher kept the spark in me alive until I got into the 9th grade in high school, where I met Kay, who became my girlfriend and now 39 years has been my wife. And what Kay taught me was that I already had inside me what it took to be successful. It was there all the time. And she helped me to understand that. And what I then realized was that I could take the gifts my parents gave me, which were a nice smile and a really strong work ethic, and then I started to build on that. And I began to notice that a lot of it was done silently, and people were responding to my silent performance. And as the more they responded to me, the more things I began to develop of an Outfluence nature. So how do we use Outfluence to get us through a crisis? We've all been in crisis mode during our lives, and of course with what's happening in the world right now, we're all in a crisis mode. So how do we get through it? We have to approach it with a good attitude. We have to connect with people, and we have to turn lemons into lemonade. So let's talk about that in just a little detail. Attitude. We have to be careful to protect our attitude. It has to remain positive. We can't get down in the dirt with the people who are just complaining about it. We have to find a way through it. And then we have to connect. We have to connect with people, and that is so important. Albert Schweitzer, who was one of the 20th century's greatest thinkers, said that occasionally everyone has the light go out in their life through a crisis or some other situation. And that light is then rekindled by another person that you have an encounter with. So our job is to look for that other person, that other positive influence that's going to connect with us and we connect with them. It's better to have a friend, right, in a crisis. That's what we want. We want as many good, positive friends as we can find. And then together what we want to do is we want to turn, and we want to turn lemons into lemonade. There's a lot of lemons out there right now, and so we have to figure out how to turn those lemons into lemonade. And there's ways to do it. We just have to think about it. And again, if we approach it with the right attitude, if we connect with the right people, we can turn the lemons into lemonade. What it requires is that we ACT. We have to act. We have to take action to get us through a crisis.